This is the Outliers Edge podcast, where we champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity by taking them to the edge of their comfort zone so that they can lead us to the edge of what's next. I'm your host, Niiamah Ashong. Let's do this. Hello there, Niiamah Ashong here, founder of Outliers Edge, where we champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. Today, we get to be a bit of a conversation experience with Huseyin Bikim as we explore both his journey and the edge that he's leaning into as he's going out to bring forth a new way that we can be as people, as we can relate to one another, and actually just like in our daily existences. I love being on this podcast. Huseyin, it's great to have you here. I love doing this podcast because it's getting me to meet there was a time where I thought I was very alone. The time where I thought that I was this altruistic person who felt like something in my soul was saying like we're at an inflection point in humanity. We're like where the world is gonna go. This is a time that's ripe for the shaping. It's no longer as rigid as it's been in the past. And for a long time, I felt that I was the lone person trying to be on my own hill, like trying to bring others there. It absolutely wasn't that case. And what I've been really enjoying has just been the process of allowing myself to see more of my peers out in the world who are doing what they can to also bring a message of uplift in our world and ushering us into what the next era of humanity is going to look like here. So I'm pleased to have this conversation with you. I'm very grateful that we are connected. I'm looking forward to exploring you as much as your message. And then you know how we play here on the Outliers Edge podcast. We're going to spend some time really focus on not just where you've been, but where you're going. And we'll leave some time to really help you go toward whatever your next edge happens to be. Does that sound like a plan for you?
Great plan.
Awesome.
Yeah, really pleased to be here. Really pleased to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm glad we're making this happen. Well, let's start off here, orienting ourselves in the right way. I find. Let me ask you this question here. We here at Outliers Edge champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. But each leader I talk to has their own way of doing it and their own reason for doing it. I'd like to start off there. I'll frame it in this way. The saying, can you tell us, what do you stand for?
Good question. I stand for selflessness as opposed to selfishness, about the greater good, the collective, as opposed to the individual, about championing and helping those less fortunate than myself, and altogether, lifting up those who are downtrodden and walking forward together, as one. Because I think there doesn't have to be losers. I think everybody can be a winner together.
Nice. As we have this conversation, I'm going to be exploring like a little bit more about what led you to that level of where you're standing. How are you, if that's what you stand for, how are you bringing that to the world right now? What's your way that you're bringing this to life?
I'm all about, it's like what you said as well, Niiamah, like being alone. This last couple of years has brought to light to us how social we are, how much we depend on one another. Like people have felt so isolated, so alone. And it's made it more apparent than ever before that we are a social animal and we depend on one another. We need each other. We want to be together. We want to communicate with one another. And what I do is I just try to bring people together. I try to listen to people, try to help people on their journey, the journey that I went on, which has brought me to a new understanding of who I am and my place in the world and my purpose or my calling. And anybody who reaches out to me, I lend a listening ear. I hold space and I help them to sort of find their truth as well. I just try to accept everybody where they are and love people unconditionally. That's what I try to do.
So we're gonna have some fun with this. I'm really, really excited to explore this deeper. When you say this, it makes me think about one of the things that recently has become clear to me, actually, I would say recently, but it's like in the last 2 years, there's an element of actually owning it that has become more and more apparent for me, which is while I know what my soul's mission is, the vehicle to bring that mission to life has been something that's been a bit elusive in terms of at least like really owning and claiming. And recently what I've been claiming is that, like, for me, I see the world changing. I see, like, through conversation. I see conversation being that's my vehicle of choice to get us there, because I'm like, it's free. It is easy to carry with you. You can always have it with you. And it only takes one other person. In fact, you can have a conversation with yourself. Just the thoughts that you're thinking and the conversation you're having with yourself can make a difference out there. And so when I hear you say that you taking time to listen to people, that you're creating space, that you're creating connections, you're bringing people together, and you're letting people be heard and creating space for that. Like, I just really want to acknowledge you in that, because it's there's an element of its own type of isolation when we're all just trying to be heard, but no one is actually listening. And I just really respect that your starting position is, let me start from the place of listening. Let me start from the place of holding space, as opposed to having to be someone who's who needs to be heard in this place. Let me check in with you. Does that feel like a accurate representation? Does that feel like an honoring representation of the way that you show up in the world?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. You know, I speak a lot on the application on Clubhouse. A lot of people hear me speak, and then it resonates with a lot of people. And then I get people reaching out to me saying, "Can you help me on my path?" And, you know, my immediate reaction is to say, "Yeah, no, I can try." Because, you know, in my understanding, everyone holds their own truth. It's just about knowing where to look for it. And then once you know where to look, you find it.
Awesome. So let's talk about here. Like, people might know you from Clubhouse. That they may have found you on there. They may have been in conversation with you. For those of us who are getting to know you here, you talked a little bit about your journey. I'd like to go to the time before your quote unquote journey began, before you knew you were on your journey, right? Paint a picture to me about like what your life was like before your journey began, and then we'll get into what that journey was and how it went off from there. But like, let's go on this story for a little bit. Let's say and take us to that moment here. What would best represent that?
How far back should I go, Niiamah? Like to when I was a kid and stuff, or like?
Let's do this here. Tell me about like the year of your life before you started your journey, as you define your journey. What was life like for you in that year leading up to it?
I guess I kind of identified with what was occurring outside of me, you know, like what I was doing in my professional life.
What were you doing in your professional life? Like, give it, like, help us see your life at that point.
Yeah, I was working for a translation startup as a project manager. I was doing a bit of sales. I'm also a soccer agent. I've been working at that for like 5-6 years. I still am. But those were my jobs. But there was like, you know, I just identified too much with what was occurring outside of me. And that was what defined me in my understanding. You know, it was what occurred outside of me. You know, it was like the material world, the outside world. And there was like issues sometimes maybe with anger, like minor, you know, there might be minor occasions when I might have lost my temper, but you know, everything was pretty plain sailing. There wasn't anything unusually difficult or challenging. It's just I had no idea that, you know, what existed beyond what I thought was everything that I knew at that time.
So I'm trying to get a picture of this here. So if I'm getting here, you at that time, like your life was working. You had your jobs going on. You had the money coming in. You had the relationships that were out there. But you talked about like, it seemed like your identity was wrapped up in the external. Like, make that real for me. Like, when you say your identity was wrapped up in the external, like how would that like show up for you? How like, is it, in my mind, I'm imagining like, would you introduce yourself in a certain way? Would you hold yourself a certain way? Can you like help me understand what you were?
Yeah.
I've only ever experienced you in and after the journey. So I'm trying to see like who was this person beforehand?
Yeah, there was probably impatience. There was like impatience. There was a concern over time, over aging, that kind of thing, running out of time, like a desire or a wish for something to occur sooner than it was happening. Frustration, things like that. Like things that might just frustrate you. Just like think if you want things to occur faster than you're just not patient enough. Middle age, whatever, father of 3 children, husband. You're just wanting things to happen sooner than they're actually happening. That kind of thing. But that was kind of who I was, I think.
All right, cool. I'm getting the sense here, and we're gonna just keep diving in. But my thing is that I'm here to see you. I just want to see you, my friend. So then tell us then here. I'm getting a sense of like what was important to you, what like where your attention was spent at that time, and what were some of the things that were like that like what some parts of your life were like at that point there. So then tell me a little bit here about the beginning of your journey. And if you want to, you can tell us like you can frame the journey, like what is the journey you went on. If you want to just kind of let it come out and emerge as we talk about the conversation, that's fine too. But I think I would just like take us through a bit of what the journey was for you.
Yeah, Niiamah, it sort of happened at the height of the pandemic. I my degree was economics. My master's degree was communication, culture, and media. And so I've never really been a big watcher of or consumer of mainstream media or any media because I just understand how it's manipulated and things. But at the height of the pandemic, my wife's a doctor in infectious diseases. She got the virus early on. She was at home, self-isolated. We're in lockdown. I was taking care of her, the kids. And I just saw just too much hysteria around what was going on. So I thought I'd try something different. I'd switched off all of the noise on the outside. And I started looking inside myself, like something that I'd never done before. I don't know why I hadn't thought about it before. It might have been mentioned to me. I guess it wasn't the right time. And then when I looked inside myself, what unraveled over the next 7, 8 months was nothing short of remarkable. The place I arrived at, it was just like beyond the words, literally.
So I'm gonna I like this. I'm gonna try and get some words in there in a bit there. Um, so you're uh, it's like the height of the pandemic. Your wife is a doctor in infectious diseases. She gets COVID early, right? You're in a household. There's lockdowns all around. The world doesn't really know what's going on right now. Because if you're saying this is early, this is like the education is still coming out there. We're all trying to figure out what's happening. Um, you're I'm assuming a semi lockdown or restricted environment in terms of what's around for you. You have 3 children at home, right? You have you're a soccer agent, but no one's playing soccer right now. So. And in terms of impatience and wanting things to come sooner, like that period of time more than anything, there's we were all this. We didn't even know what would be coming next, let alone how fast it will be coming for us, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm imagining a saying that's coming from that place and is in that environment there. Firstly, is any of that even true? Does that feel real in terms of where you might have been at that time?
Yeah, totally. We were in lockdown for 6 weeks now, man. We couldn't go out the front door for 6 weeks. 3 kids at home, looking for ways to be creative, entertaining with the kids, and there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of confusion out in the world, and that's why I thought, I'd try something different. I thought, why don't I just take advantage of this to try grow? I went on a real personal growth drive. I thought I'm gonna take advantage of this. We're stuck at home, so why don't I just work on myself?
And do you remember the first thing you did? I remember the first time I was listening to some podcasts about becoming an entrepreneur. I was hearing a track record of entrepreneurs. The successful ones were meditating every day. I was like, oh, well, if the people who are successful as an entrepreneur meditated, I should probably try it. And I'll never forget, I sat down one day and I said, I'm going to meditate. And I gave myself 2 minutes. I said, I'm going to do it for 2 minutes. And I sat down, I found something on Spotify or Pandora, whatever was the app at the time. And sat in my living room for 2 minutes, and those 2 minutes somehow became an hour. And that hour then became an hour and a half. That was my first ever session there, right? Without knowing what I was doing or whatever, just like 2 minutes just evolved. I'm curious for you, when you started down this journey of deciding to look inwards, like, do you remember, like, what's the first thing that got you started? How did that start out for you here?
I came across a guy called Jim Quick. Niiamah, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's like one of the leading brain coaches in the world. And he just appeared on my screen, and I was like, I just found him really engaging. There was something about him that I locked onto him, and I watched his videos. I read his book. I did his online course. And Jim, because I was concerned a little bit about short-term memory, I was never a great reader. Jim moved me beyond limiting beliefs. You know, he made me realize that I'm capable of a hell of a lot more than I realized. You know, like he switched my mindset, taught me good morning habits, helped me to recover my short-term memory, taught me to speed read. And I got into reading a hell of a lot. And Jim, you know, and on his online course, I really worked it. I did notes on handwritten notes, and I typed them up. I stuck them around the house on the wall if they're up there behind me, some of them. And then he mentioned meditation. There was a really good friend of his called Emily Fletcher, and her book is called Stress Less, Accomplish More, and it teaches you a specific type of meditation. And he even has like a conversation, an interview with her. So I read her book, and that's the specific meditation technique that I learned. And then once I learned that, I sat every single day, and it's only 15 minutes, but I sat every day for 15 minutes, day after day, for months on end. And in that process, I felt something happening. You know, like there was like a progression towards something happening. You feel like something's going on.
Yeah, I need to, like, I want to slow down on that, because that is, you're describing something that doesn't often get described, right? Which is like the actual process of going deeper, of slowing down, of making a change in your life, and transitioning to something else, right? Where I'm experiencing you now as someone who's gone on this journey for a while, and who's continuing down this journey. And I also know, like, to have gone from one level of success and then choosing to transition or choosing to grow in an area that was not the place where you had strength beforehand, or an area that, like, you just hadn't put your attention to beforehand. There's actually a bit of a process. So can I pull out, do you mind if I, like, reflect back some of the things that I think I'm hearing? I want to hear from you also, like, when you look back at, like, how you started going down this journey, what were some of the crucial or more salient elements? One thing I heard from you is you found, like it may not have been expected. You weren't, like, going out necessarily looking for it, but someone came up and you're like, oh, right? So, like, it's not like it was planned out. And you're like, on day 34 of like, you know, or week 4, day 3, I'm going to now go down this inner journey, right? But you're in the world, you're open to things here, and you saw something. Then you decided to explore it. So you started to go down that path, like, follow this person, so on and so forth. And what I'm hearing from you, the thing that strikes me is, like, people find people online. They'll follow them online. Some people are going to listen to one episode ever of Outliers Edge, or look at like every single thing that's ever been posted. That they'll look through a scroll of what I've recently posted, and they'll move on. But that's not what you did. You chose to immerse yourself. You chose to, like from what I'm here, you're like for someone came into your world, and for a while they became your person. You're like, I bought all the courses, I listened to all the books, like, I'm immersing myself in this person's world. And not only am I listening to this passively here, I'm not just listening to it passively. I'm incredibly active. They have an assignment to do. I did it. I'm listening. I'm taking handwritten notes here. Not only do I have the handwritten notes, but it isn't just something that I'm keeping to myself inside my box, inside my office. It is plastered all over. No matter where I am being reminded of who I am becoming and the journey that I'm going on. Let me just check in with you here. I don't want to be putting any words in your mouth, but I want to make sure that I'm really capturing what it took for you to make this transition here? Because I have seen it. I've seen when people go and they're like, I just want to start meditating, or I want to be a better person, or I want to like elevate my consciousness. And then they're like, and then you see the level of effort that's there, and they're like, why don't I have the results that I want? And it's like, because I don't know if you know what it actually takes sometimes to truly turn and open up yourself there. So I want to just like honor that right there. What would you add? What did I miss with what I said?
You just touched on something so important, you know, because Jim Quick says, you know, that saying knowledge is power is not true. You can accumulate all of the knowledge in the world, but it won't be any good if you don't put it into action. Jim says knowledge plus action equals power, not knowledge on its own. And that was the key. That was the key to actually applying what I was learning, like putting in the work, the discipline, the desire, and actually going after it, like saying, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do like full immersion. I'm going to really work it. I'm going to really try to, use this knowledge that I'm acquiring and see how far I can go and where this is going to take me. But yeah, it's really important what you said.
Yeah, as you say this, anyone that's listening right now, I'm just going to invite you to just like take a second for yourself, or take multiple seconds, pause if you need to. Think about one of the times that you made a transition, one of the times that you took on a project, one of the times that you really committed. What does commitment look like for you? What does immersion look like for you? Just saying, I'm hearing that you said, I'm not dabbling in this. I'm not going to settle for whatever happens. I'm going to commit to make this happen. You were dedicated, you were immersed in it, and you did what it took. You bought the programs, but you worked the programs. The number of people who work these programs are not often, they're not high, but you actually did it, and you were creating some change for yourself. So yeah, outliers, just think about this here. I want you to find, we're right now, we're exploring some of what worked for Huseyin. And one of the things that I found as outliers, we each have our own path to this, but there are certain principles that carry through. So immersion for you was the handwritten notes. It was putting things all around the house and things like that. For me, it's like when I find someone, I'll watch every single video that they've ever put out. Like I pride myself in finding that 2004 video that it's them talking to like this random group of people and they're super nervous. And I'm like, now I'm seeing you like that. I know that you came from there. So if you came from there, I can get to where you are now, but to really allow yourself to immerse yourself in that experience and to create an environment around that. We're going to move on in just a bit, but like, is there anything else you want to say around like the process of really transitioning and expanding who you are? Because I'm hearing this. I'm hearing like in a time where impatience could have been the number one thing on your mind, you then chose to go a different route. And you didn't just dabble, you went all in. Anything else you want to put into the space around that's important?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, this is like, we're just halfway, I guess, but I didn't even know what I was looking for. I think the term is seeker. You've got questions around faith, around spirituality, that kind of thing. And, you don't really know what you're looking for. You're a seeker. You realize there are bigger answers out there that you've not reached. And it was just like, it felt like the pieces of a puzzle were slowly coming together, like there was like a picture emerging. And I still didn't know what the finished picture looked like. But I realized that something was happening because people were coming into my life. People were appearing on my screen, and it was just leading me towards something. I didn't know where the destination was, but I felt like I was on a journey and I was going somewhere.
Okay, so let's talk about this here. I know we're only about halfway into the journey, and I can only imagine that the journey is still continuing if you're on the journey that I think you're on. In which case I'm like, well, how do we know what halfway is? The element for me that's playing out is this concept of not necessarily having a plan, but being open. You said being a seeker, So actually there's a difference. There's a difference between being open and being like, oh, I'm receptive to things. And then there's another thing with being a seeker. When you say being a seeker, I'm imagining some proactive nature of like, okay, where else is there? What else can come in? Oh, this person mentioned this person. I'm going to read their book. And I'm going to commit to that. And you've got some great skills on memory, so you can actually like continue to hold the educational knowledge, such that you can then go ahead and apply it. So I'm also that feels really important because especially with the outliers that I know, we've accomplished success and we're known for something in our fields. We're known for having, built something. We're known for leading different teams. We're known for being the youngest person to ever do X, Y, and Z, or the first person to ever do 1, 2, 3, whatever, like whatever it is, right? And so this aspect of choosing to go into something that you don't know and coming in almost like not just I usually say begin as a beginner, but this was like seek so you can find, not just wait and see or attract and have it come to you. You're like, I'm actively going to go out, and when something comes my way, I'm going to be a seeker on that. If you had to say there was like one or two principles of being a seeker, like if you're good, like this is the difference between being a seeker and being someone who's like open to things coming to them, like what would you say like made a difference for you?
Like the whole curiosity thing is key, like being curious, knowing that there are answers to some questions that you have out there and just knowing where to find them. Yeah, and then things present themselves, things happen, like after lockdown at work one day, somebody just mentioned to me out of the blue, like one of my work colleagues, he said, have you ever heard of Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now? And then that's when it picked up and something else happened. That was just like moving up another step. The continued meditation, Eckhart Tolle, and Eckhart was, my guide in effect. He was my teacher. So it took on a whole new level, like with his teachings, his videos, and like you say, I was watching everything. I was watching everything. I was reading the books, not only The Power of Now, but A New Earth too. And then when that was happening and the continued meditation, I felt there was something rising within me, like that there's something serious, like I was moving towards some serious truths, like my truths. I was like arriving at something. I could feel it happening.
Yeah. So
And then when that's happening, you just don't want to stop. You just want to keep going. You're like, wow, what's going on here? Something's happening. Like I'm feeling something rising within me. It's like something really special.
Yeah. So you did it long enough to start to get over whatever the initial discomfort or whatever like awkwardness might have been involved from like not knowing, and then started to lean in and seek that feeling of learning more, of knowing that you were something was rising within you, that you were transforming out there. And you followed that, you sought after that.
There wasn't really any discomfort. There wasn't any like doubt or not knowing. There wasn't any like, it just felt really pleasant. It was just like a really natural progression. It was like that curiosity that I mentioned, that there was this deep curiosity about finding out these answers that sort of they've always been on my mind, like since childhood, like what are these bigger questions about life, of existence that, maybe I don't know, but maybe there's something out there that's going to make sense someday. And I felt myself slowly moving towards that truth.
Oh, I like this here. I'm going to bring this out here to you outliers now. Like, where's a place right now that you can be bringing your curiosity without having to know where the path goes, without even necessarily like just bringing your curiosity to the mix and allowing. What are the questions that you've had in the back of your mind that you may not have given yourself the space to go and explore? Like, this feels like a really wonderful tool, the tool of curiosity. I think that as adults, it's not really encouraged in the same level of way. We're encouraged to know the answer. We're not encouraged to be curious about what could be. It's either you know it or you don't. If you don't, let me go find the next expert who does. And so it's quite refreshing to hear the power of curiosity and how that impacted you along your journey. So let's fast forward a little bit here. Take us now toward. I'm trying to see here. Let me know if there's another milestone that feels really important for you on your journey. Let's go there. But I'm actually really curious about what you're up to now, like where that has taken you. Yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't help us fast forward between, when you were following all the books there from Jim Quick to Eckhart Tolle to the journey that's here. Like, we're here for a reason. You said, I asked you how I could best support you, and you said, I have a message to get out into the world. We're to get to that message in a bit. But I want to make sure that like tell me about what, like, if you had to fast forward through that process, like what does the rest of the journey look like for you up until this point?
The combination of what I learned, and I had to go beyond thought. because the perception is that we are what we think. But then you realize actually there's more than what we think. We're more than what we actually think. The thinking occurs, but we're not necessarily only what we think. It's a tool this body has. It's a brain. And then you recognize ego, you understand the ego, you learn not to react out of ego. And what happens is you go beyond any kind of fear. You just eliminate fear.
So I'm going to ask a quick question here, because I'm with you. And one of the things that I've found is that I pay attention to where I'm with you and where it gets disconnected. And where it gets and so where it got disconnected here is like, I could hear it as like a principle or like a mantra in life, but I couldn't make it real. Right. So can you help make that real for me? Like, and it just might be like, tell me about how you went beyond the fear. Tell me how you went over there. Like, there's something in there where, yeah, I get it. And at the same time, I can't feel it. And I've been feeling you in this conversation as we gone there. So tell me like this, just a couple moments, or if there's one salient moment that comes to mind around like when you recognize that you're able to go beyond the fear yourself.
I'll backtrack a little bit. Basically, what happened was it's a process of unconditioning, I call it. Because, in my understanding from childhood, we're conditioned in a certain way, whether that's family, society, culture. You're told things that become part of your identity that you develop throughout your life, and that's the person you are, because what we are is the sum of our memories and our experiences, and that's what's locked away in our mind. And every decision we make comes from that perspective of who we think we are. So what happened was there's a process of unconditioning, unlearning, so that you can relearn. It's like stripping yourself naked and then getting dressed again to reaching a true understanding of who you are beyond that conditioning, those thoughts, those memories, those experiences that you've accumulated. You go beyond the thought. And then you realize, that's what Jim helped me with, going beyond limiting beliefs, because you're limited by what you believe you can achieve. But once you go beyond the thought, you realize that there's so much more possible. And then once you've gone beyond the conditioning as well, you realize that, you're not just what people have told you are. You're not just the experiences that you've lived, the name that you've been given from birth. That you're far more than that. You reach a different understanding of self, like it's called self-realization, an understanding of who you are, beyond the thoughts, beyond the ego, and beyond even the physical form. You reach an understanding of spirit.
So I like this here. Like this feels good. Tell me for you, Huseyin, like as best as you may be able to articulate it, like when you say you reach beyond the form, you reach beyond yourself, and you get to like an understanding of spirit. I know from my side, like I'm not connected to spirit as much as I am with soul, but it's hard for me to necessarily articulate what soul is experiencing. But I am kind of curious for you, like in your unconditioning process, and becoming like, if you were going to help me see like who you became as a result of this, how would you describe where that took you?
A lot of this that I didn't mention, through Eckhart's teachings, you understand consciousness, universal consciousness. You understand that every living organism within the universe is connected to this one consciousness. We share the same consciousness, whether that's human, animal, nature, and other life forms outside of the planet. You understand that they share this one consciousness. And like I mentioned before, you eliminate fear. You understand the eternal nature of your being beyond this physical form. And all other emotions are attached to one of two fundamental emotions, it's either fear or love. So what happens is once you eliminate fear, the only thing left is love. And then you just find your heart expanding. You find yourself like just giving out like so much love, because you've got more love than you'll ever realize you've got to give out, and that's what happens. You in essence, you become love. It sounds funny to say it, but that's what happens. You just give it out, and you don't expect anything in return. Like you go beyond give and take, you go beyond concepts of competition, you become more focused on collaboration. less selfishness, more selflessness. And it's just all about sharing, caring, listening, and loving. You know, you just arrive at this beautiful place that you say, well, you know, if enough people reach this understanding of who they are and this way of feeling about everyone else, then you know what might be possible. You know, it's like a.
I like that. So I'm gonna go now and say, let's take. I like to play as we're having our conversation, a conversation that weaves the internal and the external back and forth like a figure eight, right? So now I'm hearing a bit of like the internal element and like, okay, this is what you become. This is what you become. You become love. You eliminate fear. The only thing that's left is love. You're now in collaboration. You're out in the world. You're like there's a difference that shows up there. Tell me about like externally then, how is this coming to life for you, like now that you are uh you're like on a journey of like just be in love out in the world in collaboration. Like tell me some of the things that has come up from an external side of things, knowing that like the external parts are just like a small drop in the vast ocean of what is really becoming here. I think that helps, that will help anchor both sides of this here so that we can see it. So what's some of the things that have changed for you externally in the way that you showed up since really going down this journey?
You know, it's like you get to an understanding of the two separate worlds, the outer world and the inner world. Um, Prior to the internal journey, you relate your existence to everything that occurs outside of you, people's opinions,
And is that
success,
what
whatever
you
you.
was that what you were doing?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think most people do that. You know, if they haven't looked within themselves, everyone just relates their existence to what's occurring outside of them. You know, other people's opinions, comparing yourself, you know, judging yourself according to success, whatever your definition of success is, how other people perceive you, material gains, and that kind of thing. Once you go on the internal journey and reach a different understanding of who you are, what happens then is you bring that from within you, you bring that out to the outer world, because there's two worlds, the inner and the outer world. Once you bring that to the outer world, then your relationship with the outer world is completely transformed, because you are no longer affected by the things that occur outside of you that once might have been able to affect you in a negative manner, whereas now they can't, because you know you found something within you that makes you stronger, that makes you resistant to all of the stuff that occurs outside of you. And you're the way you see yourself in the world, the way you see yourself related or connected to everybody else is completely different.
So let's do this here. Let's I'm finding that this feels like a good time to move into where you're heading to next. All right. Um if there, as we do this here, if there's one thing from any part of this conversation that you feel like would either be a takeaway that you would want someone else to live into, or an invitation in terms of like a place of like just for them to just continue growing themselves, like what would be the invitation that you would make for them?
Look inside. Like, if you're looking for answers, if there's things that you don't understand, look inside yourself. You know, you sit in meditation long enough, or whatever you want to do, yoga, meditation, a combination. There are so many different types. What happens is you start to use your thought for what you need it for, and you stop letting your thought use you. You stop being a prisoner of your thoughts. You learn to observe and recognize your thought and just use what you need and leave what you don't. So, you know, you just become a different person. You think a lot less. You live in the present moment. You just let go of yesterday and tomorrow. Focus on the present moment, what's happening right in front of you at any given time. Look within yourself, you know, sit in silence and in stillness. I understood more in silence than I've understood from any language or any spoken word or written word. In the silence is where everything is revealed, you know, and there's this misperception that if you want to find a solution or an answer to something, you need to think about it. Whereas in fact, you know, and Eckharts has videos about this, creative inspiration comes from the void, comes from the silence and the stillness, where from the nothingness. That's where everything arises. You know, that's where everything is revealed.
So let's take that there, Outliers, and let's let's put that part of the conversation, let's give some space to it. And I realize that when I say that part of the conversation, what I'm really saying is the part of the conversation that was uh focusing on where you've been, focusing on like what might be like a message of what like outliers need to know, and now just shift like shift the attention to you. Now, here goes the thing that I would say. I know we were talking earlier, and I was asking you about like your message. You're like, oh, it's about going from being selfish to like selfless. I'm going to invite you in this part of the conversation to play at a level and be open to the possibility that the more selfish you are, the more selfless you might be, because that gives someone a chance to see what are the real issues that someone is facing, that they can articulate and see in you through your experience, where you are, what you're accomplishing, what you're trying to, what the inner journey you're going, the depth that you're going there. That almost like the way I look at it is like the more personal we can become, it also becomes the more universal. Like when you were talking about like your experience being in lockdown for 6 weeks, like we all knew that, and so I want to open us to here as we spend some time supporting you in what lies beyond your edge from where you are right now. I want to open up that space for you to not have to like take on carrying anyone or making sure anyone else gets anything else from this. What I have found in the past of doing this is that when that happens, when someone is here trying to be of use or of support for someone else, we don't talk about anything interesting. We aren't able to get to anything life-changing. And basically everyone's like, okay, like the guards are up. We see it, we feel it, right? And so it makes it really difficult to actually accomplish it. So I want to put that out here, right? So we're now shifting to a place where this is about you, right? And the way I like to frame it here, and this is the last thing I'll say to everyone else, while I'm focusing on Huseyin is every one of us at the same time, right? And whether his journey and what he's working on is specific for you, like, don't listen for the information at this point. Listen for the insights. Listen for the questions that we have. Listen for the curiosity that we bring. Listen for the way that it makes you feel. Answer the questions that might come up for you. Answer the questions that might come up in this conversation for yourself, and give yourself a chance to really be on the journey, not just as a viewer, but as someone who is immersing yourself in this transformational experience. Just saying, are you down to play for a bit here and just spend some time focused on you? We'll spend probably like 10, 15 minutes focused on you right now.
There's something that I forgot to mention. I think it's important to mention as well. Like the whole difference between selfishness and selflessness. You can only make that move from selfishness to selflessness once you've been selfish, because you have to think about number one. You have to arrive at a place of self-love. Because until you do that, then you're not good for anything. Until you focus on number one, you love yourself fully. What I'm saying is because it took me a hell of a long time to get there. And until you get there, then forget about anything else or anyone else. You have to focus on number one. You have to love yourself, and then you can move from selfishness to selflessness. But before then, forget about it.
I like that there. I like so that also gives me some language to bring people into this, like now we're gonna look at this as an exercise of self-love, right? And in that self-love, it becomes even more selfless, But I think that's it. Like, it's like when you see someone out there like not being selfish, but actually like taking time to cherish themselves, to love themselves, to nourish, to take care of themselves, so on and so forth. It actually expands something in you, which is, oh, that's actually available as well, right? It actually expands, at least for me, that's been something there where I'm like, I didn't even know that I was cutting myself off from this. And thankfully, this person goes to the gym and has said, even though I'm a parent, like I love myself enough to make sure I still take care of myself. And it has opened up doors for me. So let's play in that world. Like let's and what's also going to be really interesting is just like, I see this now as like a really wonderful way to showcase what self-love can look like, as well as receiving support, because that also ends up being a thing too, where it's like it's easy to go help others, but it's not as easy to both receive and to be powerfully seen in the reception of it. So so I think we're gonna have fun playing in this year. I think this is some of the most important work that we do, both for you and in terms of like what becomes available from here. So let's play. We have about 15 minutes here, just so you know. the world I play in is life changing, right? You saw something online, and in an instant, in not an instant, but in that moment, you made a decision. You made a decision to start to immerse, to start down a journey, to follow your curiosity. The decision to follow curiosity was a life-changing moment for you, because it's continued to evolve as things gone on from there. So I'm not tied to any amount of time here. I'm also not tied to this looking good for the purposes of any resource out there. I don't care. I'm here for you, right? And I want to make sure that we're spending time helping you get to wherever that goes, wherever that is. So please also don't worry about making me look good. Like we can come out here and be like, none of this mattered for me. This didn't work at all, or I'm mad, or whatever it is. You have so much space to just love yourself enough to get what it is that you want. Okay. That you may not have even realized that you were here. You've been pouring into other people. Now I'm going to pour into you. All right. Are you good with that?
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So here goes some things to say as we move into this part of the conversation. I want you to know a few things. One, I'm going to hide nothing and hold nothing back. Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Two, I'm here to serve you and not please you. Are you good with that?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. And then the third thing here is that I have a track record of having life-changing conversations. That's just what I do. It's a space that I play in. And at this point in my life, if the possibility of a life-changing conversation isn't on the table, I'm not interested in having the conversation. Are you open to the possibility of this being a life-changing conversation?
Definitely, of course.
All right, awesome. Is there anything that you need in order to, for yourself, in order to really lean into the self-love that is this opportunity right now for you?
No.
Okay.
Awesome. Just to go.
All right. So Huseyin, if you and I were going to talk in 3 years from now, and we were having another conversation, and you were talking about both the inner world that you've been creating for yourself and the external world out there, to think just looking at your life and who you are being in the world, and everything in your life was to a level of satisfaction that felt that hit you on the spiritual level. You know what I'm saying? It's not the external comparison element, but on a spiritual level, you're I'm satisfied. I'm in alignment. My spirit is full. I'm performing, everything that I need is in alignment there. What would we need to talk about today that would help make that even richer than what you're currently imagining?
What will we be talking about 3 years from now?
Well, yeah, let's start there. And then we'll come back. We'll see if we'll come from there. What we'll be talking about 3 years ago from now, if that was the case.
Or what would it look like?
Not what it would look like. My initial question was more, if that was your world, if there was a world of that much satisfaction, what would we need to talk about today to help you get there? Right.
All right.
That was my initial question. But if you'd like to, I'm actually really curious about the future you're envisioning for yourself about 3 years from now. So if you'd like to tell me about that, you can tell it to me in the present tense and first person, as if it's happening now. Hey, Niiamah, as if it is 3 years down the line. It's the end of February then, and you're wow, Niiamah, 3 years ago I was on your podcast. Can you believe that? Let's start off there. 3 years ago I was on your podcast. Can you believe that? Tell me what's going on in your world now, Huseyin?
Yeah, Niiamah, it's it seems just like yesterday. It was the first time I've actually talked to someone who wanted to get my message out there, or to get me out there, and said, this is who Huseyin is and this is what he's like. I had no idea what would occur in these next 3 years, But what happened is it was a catalyst. It was a starting point, and it paved the way for me to spread my message and the words, my experience, and to help others to go on their own journey. Because my truth is my truth, but everybody's truth is their own. No two paths are identical. Everyone is on their own unique path. Maybe the destination is the same place, but we all have to go on our own journeys. And it's really special to me what we did 3 years ago, because it was a really deep conversation that we had, and it showed me the way forward. And so now what I do, everywhere I go, everyone I talk to, I spread that same message that we shared 3 years ago. Because I realized, for me, the more we become conscious, the more we become aware of ourselves and our connection to everybody else, and how we share that same consciousness, that, eventually a lot of things that we might label as undesirable in the world will gradually evaporate, and the world will become a better place for the majority rather than the few.
So they're saying like now coming back to this current moment, I realize I'm like, wait, we're talking Eckhart, we're talking the power of now. We just went out to the future. We have to get out of the future again, right? In this current moment, like how can I serve you? How can I support you in this moment? What feels real for you?
Just being heard, it's not, this isn't like about me. It's never going to be about me. It's just like, who can hear something that might ignite something in them, like happened with me with Jim, or with Emily Fletcher, or with Eckhart Tolle, or with Neil Donald Walsh and Conversations with God. All of those people who've been part of this journey from this last year, that something they've said, something I watched, something I heard, something stood out and went straight through to my heart. Right? Just like something clicked all along that path. All of the pieces of the puzzles came together. And so how much can we be heard? Like, how much can our message get out there? Just because it might touch someone and ignite their curiosity more than anything else. No one has to, but there's no proof, there's no point to prove. It's just about helping people to get to a different understanding of who they are, which ends up becoming a very, very liberating experience. It's like a beautiful place to arrive at in the end.
Yeah. You know what's coming up for me as we're talking here? I am feeling, so it feels to me that like what's present for you is like, let's get this message out there. Let's not, but on the same time, there's two sides of it, right? There's both, let's get the message out there around the like consciousness and awakening and the journey around that. But at the same time, like, let's also create opportunities for people to be heard as well. Like, first, does that sound like it's in alignment there?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. How can I support you doing that?
I don't know. You probably know better than I do.
Yeah. So in my mind here, well, I'll be honest, the elements of this that come up, it's like, okay, let's keep like there are ongoing ways to play. Like I'm thinking about the being heard part, right? So right now we're having a conversation. It's a resource for in the Outliers Edge world that would be shared in many different ways, and different people are going to be able to hear you, and they're going to be able to feel you and be able to see you in different lights as a result of this. And what comes up here is like, I wonder what it would be like to play now on the other side, to collaborate and co-create something where we're in the listening seat, and we're letting others be heard. And so there's a space here that, well, how does that feel to you?
That would be really interesting, like to have a bigger involvement from other people, question and answer, like holding space, listening, anything like that. It'll be amazing.
Yeah. I get, it's interesting because like it's fun and also interesting because normally I'll be like, okay, what do you want to create? Are you looking to create a book? Are you looking to create a platform? Like a lot of the external stuff here, right? But I also get the sense you're like, look, I'm following the curiosity, I'm following the breadcrumbs, like different pieces like show up, I know what I'm about, and as a new thing shows up, we'll go with that. And so it's almost like in this case here, it may not be service, it might be more co-creation here. And we set aside some time. You don't need to do it right now, but I think it'd be really, really awesome to get to do something like that. And you have Clubhouse. I know you're big on Clubhouse. And if someone wants to find you on Clubhouse, how can they do that? Let's just make sure we capture that.
But typing in my name, you can find me, Huseyin Bikim.
Yeah.
My name's a bit of a funny spelling, it's Huseyin, Huseyin, and then Bikim is Bikim. If you type that into the search on Clubhouse, you find me.
All right, awesome. So we know that there's a space where like there's a really great space for people to come in, both hear and be heard with you. I think it'd be really interesting to like continue to explore this in other regards. So whether it's on Clubhouse, whether it's on another platform here, we have our Outliers Edge programs here where I'm looking for ways to facilitate conversations, and not just with two people being heard, or like everyone listen to one person, but creating different pockets, really experimenting with like, what is it like to be heard, going into breakout rooms and being able to like find other, like being able to say things that you haven't said to others, and being able to go down whatever that journey is. So I'm going to follow. Yeah.
Like creating a safe environment, like a safe space where people can bring out, their curiosity, their questions, and not feel threatened or worried about what they're talking about, what they're asking, being judged, all of that, just having like this good arenas, good spaces where people can just like can have dialogue, talk about things, share, be vulnerable,
That's my world. If we're not in that space, then like actually no, that's not entirely true. Saying my world is to create safe and brave spaces. So I've been in spaces where people have been safe, and I think that's I love that. And I also like to I also recognize for myself how that how it does take at times courage to be able to go beyond the safety of this specific four walls, or this one place where I can actually be free, be me in the world. And it's like, well, actually, I know for my mission, it's like we're trying to translate that out into the world as well. So how can we be, and I think it's in the area of being vulnerable, how can we be both safe and brave throughout that entire process? So yeah, I think what started out here is let me come and serve is now shifting to something like, oh, it looks like there's more things that we can co-create. We can have that conversation offline, but I like to keep that space of just like of allowing things to emerge as is necessary. And we can play around, like creating spaces is what I do. I'm a conversation Sherpa. That's my thing. I help people have the most important and meaningful conversations of our time. Like that's it. So I love to be joined. I love to co-create something with you, not just even collaborate. We're 50-50. Like, let's just bring our 100 into this and co-create something awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome, Huseyin. So we'll end this conversation here. Look out for something awesome. Look out for an invitation to come and spend some time being heard, not just by us, but by your peers, by other people, hosted by me and Huseyin at some point. We'll make some spaces come to life. Sound good?
Yeah, brilliant.
Awesome. So, well, thank you for bringing yourself in to this space. Thank you for starting the journey of your own deeper work, and for choosing to bring that out into the world and helping others go down their journey as well. I see you, I appreciate you, and I'm grateful for you.
Thanks, Niiamah. It's been so enriching. It's like you just have this incredible way of like of building this like comfortable conversation. You took me on a journey just today speaking with you. And it's been really nice to go back through that journey again with you as well. I'm glad we had this conversation.
I am as well. Thank you for who you are.
Thanks.
Ready to play at your edge? Come join us inside of the Outliers Edge multiverse, where you have the opportunity to come for 14 days and play in the sandbox of your unique leadership style and take everything about you to its next edge. Go to outliersedge.com/OE guest pass in order to receive your 2-week gift.